Okay, like to call
Here
September.
here we go.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Two more. 2 minutes. A full
yes,
house.
yes, please. Okay, let's get the September Rail Committee meeting going. Can we get the roll call, please?
Sure. Chair Key,
Yep.
Greg Conlon,
Here.
Jim Jantz.
Here.
Jack Ringham. Jim Massey.
Here.
Vice Chair Mulbeck.
Here.
And we have our council member liaison, Diana Hawkins Manwillian.
Okay. Any public comments? Scott?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think we have a microphone. set up.
Can you hit the red?
Oh, there
hit
is
the
one
button
over there. Okay.
Yep.
I think most of you, actually, that's fair. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is a push button. Okay. There's just a push. Oh, there it is. Okay, okay, got it. Technology. Yeah, so I think I recognize almost all of you, but for those of you who don't remember me, I was on the Atherton Rail Committee for 8 years. I joined a few months after I moved to Atherton in 2011. I wasn't even a father back then, and I had learned through Alex that the rail committee might not be in existence by the end of the year. So I just wanted to stop by about 3 years after my term expired and just express my appreciation for spending my time with you. And I learned a lot from many of the members, both current and former members, on rail issues and all the complexities of working with local governments and so forth, and just thought I'd stop by and just give my best wishes and hope that everything turns out for the best, regardless of what happens to the committee. And also, as a practical matter, wanted to find out what's going on with Watkins. So,
Oh, okay.
so yeah, so
We'll
I
get
see
an
it's on the
update.
agenda. So thank you. That's it for me.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you, Scott. He needs his microphone back. The microphone. Okay, so that was public comments. We'll move on to the next item, which is the station remodel update.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. This is just a brief update on the station remodel project. I'm going to say that the greater majority of the demolition associated with the project has been completed, including the concrete areas for accessibility, for the parking spot, as well as peeling back all those layers of paint, removing a good chunk of the wood rot on the building. And so that work is ongoing. They've also started installing some of the irrigation for the landscaping that's going around it, anticipating that they'll tie that in later this week. Also getting started on some of the electrical work. And I think I saw today somebody working with some primer. So we're moving along.
Paint on.
What's that?
So they're putting paint on now? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And so we do have a discussion of some change orders at the council meeting tomorrow, particularly related to roofing. It's not as watertight as we had hoped it would be. And so we're looking at potentially replacing that clay tile roof.
Okay.
So
So that's what the budget item is for discussion to study committee tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any committee questions or from the liaison? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to add some stuff. One of the things that's happening is we are launching our premiere sneak peek of the train station on the 24th. And I'd like to invite you guys to all come. It'll be here in this room, and we'll show a sneak peek of the video that we produced. We'll hopefully have some train experts here. And we'll have a, panel about the history of the train in Atherton. And we're also looking for people who might be interested in volunteering to be involved with the train museum, both on, every aspect of it, from raising money for it. Right now, the entire budget has been tied up in the building. So we'll have to do another round to get the materials for the inside for the actual display. We're also looking for model builders, anyone who's interested in trains, any of that. So if you know anyone or you're interested in getting involved, please sign up and come see me because we need help.
Got a query. This Menlo Park, they used to have that model rail.
Yeah,
They
they
still
still have
do.
it.
Yeah.
Still have it. It's very cute. Ours is going to be,
Out to them to see if they might know somebody who's not, can't fit into that situation, but that might be ideal for us.
I have, because what they've done are the little tiny size. We're going to do G scale. So ours are going to be bigger and they're
Okay.
down the center display and we'll have a handful of ones. We've had one resident already donate a daylight, a Model G daylight, which is awesome. So yeah, I've reached out to them. Most of what they do is a smaller scale, but there is a G scale community out there. So yeah.
We have somebody in Lloyden Park that lives right across from the Barkers.
Joan Hodnett.
Joan Honda, yeah.
She plays with trains all the time.
Yeah, I want to get in touch with Joan. Send Joan my way. So,
Yeah, okay.
Well, you see her at ADAPT meetings all.
yeah, I will. I will. I'm going to reach out to her.
Yes, I have a friend who spends full time fixing model trains
Nice.
and he lives in Menlo Park.
Awesome. Send them my way. And anyone who has photos or historical facts or memorabilia that we can display, anything, we're just starting. So we'll accept everything and anything.
Well, I'm just trying to find his data here. Hang on.
Is it Grosser? Is his last name Grosser?
His name is Bruce Battles
Oh, don't know him.
and his,
We could probably share that
Yeah,
after,
share it
after the
with me
meeting.
after,
We
yeah,
don't have
that's
to.
not, yeah.
put up his
You can
information
share
as
it
a
with
public
me.
record.
he'd be
I'll
glad
pass
to have it because that's all he does is get
Awesome.
fix model trains.
Great.
And his mobile is 650
Greg,
521.
Greg,
Greg,
it's probably good not to share. telephone
not
information.
on the Zoom recorded meeting. Why don't you pass the information? on
Well, how about
separately?
his email? SSV Railroad. How's that? @gmail.com. Because he'd be glad to get the business. Because he relies on it for a living. SSV Railroad @gmail.com. And he lives right off of Santa Cruz. No, off of Valparaiso somewhere.
Is there an ETA on when the construction will be done?
That's really going to depend on some of the changes that we're doing. So.
Okay, okay. That's part of the vote tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to make contact with you and
Yeah. after
have him
this.
come over or what do you?
After this, we'll connect. Yeah. After this meeting, you can connect with me and we'll do the next thing. So yeah.
With
that's
you or
great.
with Robert?
Either one. Either
Okay.
one.
Robert and I talk quite frequently, so I'll get Bruce involved with you.
Thank you.
And I thought that when Caltrain had done some work a few years ago on the rail station, that they were fixing up the wood rot and no, what were they doing then?
They did a variety of things. Last time that they went through and actually did stuff, it was related to communications, but
Okay,
as far as building maintenance, there was so much deferred maintenance, a bunch of wood rot.
okay, okay.
Leaky roof, so.
Are there any questions or other comments from the committee?
I'm not clear. What is it that you want him to do?
Right now, we're looking for volunteers, so we need volunteers on every aspect. If they have images, if they have paraphernalia, if they have models they want to donate, if they want to help build the sets, we eventually be building like little model sets
In the
go-
station?
in the station, yes.
So you build a model train in the station?
Yes, they're just small, they're stagnant, they're not moving, but there's a train with a little train station. So we're going to show our train station through time.
So you would retain him to do that?
I don't know, because right now we don't have money for any of it, so.
Well, you
we
spent
are-
300,000 on the building. Hopefully you could scrape a couple bucks.
That's the problem. We spent all the money on the building, unfortunately, so. we're
Maybe
at-
I could loan the city some money to, All right.
Shall we move on to item number 2, the Watkins Avenue safety improvements?
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. I don't know how many of you have been through the Watkins Crossing recently, but work has been progressing pretty well. They have put up the signals for the quad gates as well as for the pedestrian arms. They're not active. They don't have the arms on them, but they've actually put up the poles. They've been working on some of the accessibility stuff, some of the electrical work, and so work is progressing pretty much per the schedule.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
What's the terminal date? When is it gonna be finished?
Supposed to be done by December.
This year?
Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the public?
I'll just mention that the crossing is pretty good for something that Caltrain said that they couldn't do. They said it was logistically impossible for a few years ago. But really stands on pockets of the geography.
Yeah, they did have to put in some little bit of small retaining structures, so.
And they're pretty much on budget so far.
They have more than enough in the grant to cover it. so.
I'm interested in the final price tag after all is done. So I know we're still not in December. We'll probably find out in December.
Yeah.
Are there any comments?
I guess the only comment I have is that Orange County put in 11 crossings. All quad gates at $1 million each.
That's about the expected price of our crossing, is it not? $1 million?
Somewhere around there. I think the
3 million each.
the civil work is somewhere, I want to say close to about 800, and then they have their signal work that's on top of that.
Okay.
So.
Maybe ours is these are less busy street. Yeah, so we'll see.
I got out of it. I don't want to
Okay,
get
okay,
in that one.
fair enough. We'll move on to item 3, Caltrain update.
There's really not much of an update other than you'll notice that some of the wires have started going up on the poles. They are working intermittently here in town, working on signaling and tying in various aspects, but it's on and off.
Is the physical plant done in terms of they've strung everything they need to string? and-
I don't
okay.
think everything's up yet.
I attended their most recent meeting, so I'll just say what they said.
Yeah.
They said that the wires are all the way up.
Okay,
And that
great.
they had an event in San Jose where 4,000 people went and rode the new electric train down there. There's another one sometime in September up in San Francisco if you want to go ride them there. They said that by October, they will be testing them on our run going down as far as San Jose, I think. So
Okay.
starting in October, they'll start running tests with the full electric train
Okay.
running. So according to them, it's all built. It's ready to go and they're starting to.
Well, when do they expect to go on service?
Full service, they're expecting, well, this is what they said in the beginning of next year. Well,
I'm saying again, when?
they said that this is 24, yeah, so. in a few
August
months.
of 24? So,
They didn't say it a month, but they said that the testing will start in October and about 6 months after that, they'll have full train service running with electric. That's what they said. And they also got a grant for $80 million and we're the first in the country to test a battery operated train. So they've purchased that and they're going to be testing it on our line.
Where did we hear about that all battery train idea? Maybe from this committee several years ago.
It's going to be awesome. I wish they would have, skipped a thing and went straight to that
Yeah.
because it's quiet, it's clean, it doesn't require the big infrastructure. So,
Yeah.
but it wasn't done yet. I mean, we're testing the first one in the country.
Well,
So-
Diana, it's not an all battery train. It charges up here from the wires and then it uses the battery from down to Gilroy.
Yeah.
You can't do the whole line on the battery.
Probably so. Yeah, it was intended for the places where they didn't have the wires. You're absolutely right.
So is it going to be, all the service will be electric? Or is there gonna be some?
I think
still
it's
running
gonna
this-
be hybrid. They didn't
Yeah.
explicitly say, but the implication was it'd be hybrid because they don't have that many of those trains.
Well, Caltrain ultimately is gonna go all electric. It's still gonna have diesel trains from Union Pacific.
Gilroy,
To Gilroy. Oh, the Union Pacific trains are.
Okay, so
still-
right.
the trains that run through here, the Caltrains will all end up being electric. But the freight trains are still gonna
Right.
be diesel.
And if,
That's
the-
why we have that dual
Caltrain-
system.
How will Caltrain get from San Jose to Gilroy?
the battery train that they're testing,
That's
the
the
one
plan.
battery train, yeah. If that's successful, I assume they're gonna probably buy a couple more to run more Gilroy service.
Before that's available, it'll run diesel. San Jose.
Yeah, I guess they'd have to do diesel then. Yeah. But then they probably would just have the diesel train run up and down the peninsula, yeah. But they want to get rid of all their diesel trains because they're all old and they don't want to maintain them anymore.
Do they have a date for full electric service?
They said next year. But
Not to do it.
that was what they said at the last meeting.
Okay.
And you know anything about ridership? Trains are empty all the time.
Yeah, it's
Spend
not,
all those millions of dollars for empty trains. You know,
Details.
Anything planned for that? I mean, I could call Jeff G in it, but I'm just curious.
Well, I think they're saying their ridership is slowly picking up, but it's still way down from pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah.
That may change as more and more companies start with their back to work stuff, back to the office requirements.
You know,
A
I'd
whole
hope
lot
so, it'd ease-
Caltrain can do about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would hope so, because it would ease the traffic on the road. The people are going to work now and not riding the rail like they were before. Mark has the same issues, and that's, I was just curious if there's been a conversation about how do we get people back on board.
They're doing some tests of fares. They're changing the fare structure as well, so that they're gonna be doing that this fall and winter. And I don't know the details of it, but they're trying to come up with fair deals and they're gonna obviously promote the electric and the innovations that are coming down the line.
Caltrain doesn't have the crime issues that BART does, per se, in the homeless camp. So, okay, thank you.
any other comments or questions from the public? Yes.
I do. Is there any update on the issue with, constant morning time circuitry? Because I remember a while.
You want to come up to the microphone so I can hear you?
Go ahead and try that one again, just hit the.
I was just curious, what's the status on the constant? 4 years ago, there were issues with integrating the
Dual speed check, is that where you're,
no, this is the currently how the gates.
they come down at a constant warning? Yeah.
So I remember that there was an issue where they couldn't use the current circuitry that they use for detecting when the gates need to go up and down. That the electrical system, the electrification was incompatible with the current, so they were going to have to implement a new constant warning time system.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they were going to use the same company that does work in Denver. And there are big problems with the Denver implementation, where right now we enjoy about 10 seconds of downtime after a train leaves. I've timed it myself. You can even go on YouTube, and there are people that have exhibited the fact that it takes about 10 seconds from the gates to go up. The company that they hired, it can be like 60 seconds. Maybe even longer, 45 seconds. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're used to 10 seconds, 45 seconds to a minute can seem like an eternity. And so this encourages people to go around the gates and cause all kinds of problems. So I was kind of curious if there's been any updates from Caltrain about how they're going to integrate the new constant warning time circuitry with the new electrification system.
Thank you.
Do you
Yeah.
recall, Robert? Because I'm trying to.
Yeah, so they implemented what they're calling the two-speed check system.
Okay, it is the same. okay.
And so with that, they'll have one detection system for the faster trains and another one for the slower ones associated with the diesel trains. And so as Scott mentioned, there is an incompatibility with the current system in electric trains because it runs, I think, on low voltage in the tracks.
Yeah.
And so they have a different system that they're going to be using for the electric trains.
Yeah, and I think the FRA approved,
Yeah.
they asked for a special deal, well, not quite a deal, but a special
Eh,
rule. And the FRA allowed them
So,
to use both.
and Caltrain has already started implementing the detection system along the corridor.
You said how long it will be there?
Not specifically. I think that we attended a workshop when they were forecasting well in the future when there are a lot more trains running. And so we won't have that information.
And even if we do, it would be a theoretical number. Because we'll see when they implement it, what actually happens. So you can get a number from them, I'm sure today, but whether that ends up being the case might be a different story when we get it, when we actually have the system operating. Are there any other questions on or comments on Caltrain update?
Well,
What,
you know, Jack has always raised the issue about the platforms, but maybe it's more appropriate on the next item, High-Speed Rail Authority. Whether the platforms are gonna be compatible with the high-speed rail and the,
We don't have any platforms in Atherton. There's no stops in Atherton anymore.
yeah, but it's still a generic problem for the system. I mean, if they don't have platforms that are compatible with the high-speed rail and the electric train, it's not gonna run anywhere. But Jack, am I right there?
I can't hear anybody. I don't know what you're asking me.
I'm talking about the compatibility of the high-speed rail platforms and the electric, what do you call
the
it?
height of the boarding level?
Boarding on the electric trains compared to the high-speed rail. That's still an issue,
Mhm.
is it?
Not that I know of.
All right. We'll let it go.
Okay. Why don't we move on to High-Speed Rail Authority update then?
Sure. I don't really have any information with regards to the high-speed rail. There's nothing happening in the peninsula. So there's not really an update to provide.
Okay. Greg, did you have anything you want to update, if you have an update on high-speed rail or anyone else?
What about these other three intersections in Palo Alto? How is that affecting all this? Because they were gonna do a variation of
We,
a trench, and I just don't know whether that impacts high-speed rail or not. And whether that would affect us.
I think we're going to be talking about what's going on in neighboring jurisdictions in the
yeah,
next item.
Next item, we'll talk about neighborhood.
All right,
jurisdictions.
okay. And don't let me forget the new item that we added and completed in one session on
I was going to talk about in the next item.
okay.
Okay. Are there any questions or public comment on high-speed rail? Okay, we'll move on to neighboring jurisdictions. I'll let you kick it off if you have anything, Robert.
Yeah, I just have a minor item. I know that Alex, you'll have updates on what's going on next door. But I don't know if any of you have noticed on Marsh Road, near Bay, where there's the Dunbarton Rail Corridor crossing. Thanks to the efforts of Mr. Conlon and contacting the CPUC, that area has been repaved. And so what was rather jarring for motorists is no longer as bad.
And I will write them a letter thanking them, because I'm sure they spent $1 million or $2 million on that intersection to get it up to speed. And if you drive over it at all, the change is unbelievable.
I have to agree with that. It was much smoother. There were a bunch of potholes there and now they're all.
They're all
smoothed out.
gone.
Yeah, they're all smoothed out.
And I'm still not sure how I did that, but I'll take credit.
No, I'm happy to give it to you. I made a couple calls. They didn't work out. Greg found the right guy at the CPUC and first they started off with some minor patchwork and then completely repaving the crossing. So it's a lot better.
So that's one of my the first accomplishment is I take credit for the
Dumbarton
no, the one right here, the Fair Oaks.
or Quad Gates.
Quad gates.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it took me several years with the help of Jerry Carlson, but we got that installed without any cost, if I remember right. Without any cost to Atherton. And I still to this day don't know exactly how we did that, but we had a lot of meetings. So hopefully that had part of it.
Why don't you let the chair go and then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just update from Palo Alto and their quest for a quiet zone along Palo Alto Avenue, which is near Alma, which turns into Alma. Their city council approved a plan to proceed with design and construction to rebuild that Palo Alto Avenue median. And they just need to extend the median and make it a little higher to make it quiet zone compliant. So they're a bit lucky. They don't need to do a quad gate because they have enough room to put in a median without running into another street. And that is going to cost about 200 to 250K. And they expect this quiet zone to be implemented in 20 to 24 months, so around June 2023. Don't know why it takes that long to
20
build the median.
24.
24 or
2024, I'm sorry. Yes, 20. Oh no, from
25.
From June 2023. 20 to 24 months from June 2023.
Okay.
So it'll be
June
sometime
26.
in 2025. Yeah. Early to mid 2025, but it's Palo Alto, so maybe it's 2026. I really don't understand why it's taking so long to rebuild the median, but maybe they have to work with Caltrain to figure out the right schedule and something like that. But
Some concerns for your fellow tree there too. So you have to-
but they just have to rebuild the median, so it's just the middle
They're
part.
very sensitive to that.
That's true. Although they're doing bridge work on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but Caltrain's in charge of that. So what was I gonna say about that? So when they have that median done, they can then apply for the quiet zone. So that will take 1 to 2 more months after that. But that will be maybe the second quiet zone on the peninsula. And of course, Menlo Park's doing their quad gating too. So that'll probably take a bit longer than Palo Alto because they still need to find the money for it after they do the design. That's all I had for updates.
Well, is Menlo, the 4 intersections, are they trying to do grade separation? What is it they're doing on their grade separation?
There's a 2-track plan. Grade separation is much longer term, and they still haven't decided what their vision on grade separation will be. Do they want to do a hybrid, or do they want to do full elevation? And then how are they going to pay for it? So they're still deciding what the long-term plan will be. But in terms of quad gating, they're going to quad gate 2 of the busy intersections, and that will get their score low enough or high enough. I don't know which way it goes up or down, but they'll be scored safety-wise enough that they can get a quiet zone for all 4 intersections in them.
Which 2 is that? Ravenswood and,
The one next to Ravenswood. I forget what it's called. But
well, it's,
maybe it's the two southerly Oak Grove, the 2 southerly intersections. Crossing. So once they do those 2, then they could apply for a quiet zone, and as long as
not sure.
nothing.
What do they do on the other 2?
They don't have. As long as you have a safe enough set of intersections, the FRA will give you a quiet zone. As long as nothing significantly changes in the interim between now and then, where it changes the safety score, they'll be able to get a quiet zone. If something changes the safety score, they'll have to maybe do one more or two more of those intersections to be quad gated. And they all have to be quad gated. They have a street very close to each of them, so there's no other alternative.
Very good.
Any other comments or questions? Or
Um,
Diana?
I don't know if this is
Oh.
Menlo Park or Palo Alto, but it seems to me there was some hullabaloo about that bridge. And it was unsafe and it was gonna have to be taken down and repaired and it was gonna be out of service
The
for 2 years.
San Francisco Creek Bridge,
San
yeah.
Francisco Creek Bridge.
Yeah.
Is that still up in the air? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, they are gonna repair it. There was some debate about what to exactly do to repair it, but they have to repair it otherwise, and they can't shut down the train service, so. The Palo Alto, I think, had some debate about, we're gonna do something to our Palo Alto Avenue crossing that could affect it, and. But they said, we gotta hurry up, cause this bridge, it's not gonna last 10 more years, and that's probably gonna be how long it takes for them to decide what to do, then actually construct what they wanna do. So,
They can do that without affecting the train service.
I think so, yeah. I mean, they have to, otherwise,
They've done it before where they have bus links around things.
I don't quite remember all the details, but I think they'll figure out a way to do it, or just have construction at night.
Well, if it takes 10 years, it won't matter to me.
I mean, a lot of that's planning and
Where are you going,
finding the
John?
money.
I have no idea.
Diana, please.
I was just gonna share at the last policymaker meeting, the city council of Redwood City, Redwood City hired a consulting firm to do an analysis of how they're gonna handle their crossings. Because they're anticipating that there's gonna be more and more trains and that they're gonna have more and more downtime. So they were trying to do analysis, and then if they go up or they go down, and they were looking at noise issues related to up versus down and discussing how it's more complicated. And if the crossings are within half a mile of each other, they have to be at the same. So if you go up one and it's half a mile, that one has to go up. So they hired a consultant to analyze how they were going to do it, all their crossings in the city of Redwood City. The other cities said that really we should be not funding it separately, that we should be going as a group of cities. So there's a push within the cities to say we need to lobby this together, so that we get federal funding to deal with whether we go up or down, instead of having each city face it and each city hire a consultant and each city reinvent the wheel. So there was a real pushback of some cities that don't want to do anything and others that want to get federal funding. So all of that's being duked out right now. And there's not been much conversation about what we want to do here, although they did propose closing Watkins at one point, closing the whole street. And they were saying on some streets that aren't very busy, if they can channel you and it's less than 7 minutes to go around, they would just close it entirely. But we pushed back, I pushed back, because that's right where our school is. And it's like it would be a very big cutoff for us. So all that stuff is coming down the pike in terms of how it's going to be resolved. So I just wanted to share some of the discussions that were going on in other cities.
I have some suspicions who made that suggestion, but or which city made that suggestion, because closing down Watkins would benefit one city in particular if they were to do grade separation.
No, it wasn't by any jurisdiction. It's actually Caltrain is.
Caltrain wanted to do that.
Caltrain, I think,
Okay.
as you may recall, is doing a corridor study
Okay.
with regards to crossings. And as part of that, they're looking at whether or not, or did the different options of what those crossings might be, whether they should be ped only or bike and ped only, full crossings for vehicles, or complete closure.
So what would be the benefit for Caltrain to just have a complete closure? Because it works fine right now. I mean, it's not a safety issue.
Like I said, it's the entire corridor.
Okay.
And so they're looking at everything from gate downtime effects to how fast they can get trains through the corridor. Safety in terms of crossings, the less crossings you have, the safer it is for the trains. So it's that kind of study that they've embarked on.
thought it was this may be a article that you distributed, but I thought it was kind of funny that Palo Alto was all happy they got $80 million and then it put them in a crunch because they have to
Decide soon, yeah.
sooner than they
The-
can decide or give up the money. And I thought, well, you got it coming.
For the crossing, are they asking for public comment on this time
30
or?
Not yet. Like I said, it was a workshop exercise that they
Okay.
held first with different city staff from the different cities and then with the local policymakers.
Okay.
And so feedback was provided at that workshop. They're taking that feedback in and mulling it over.
Okay, great. Any other comments or questions? Anything from the public? Nothing? Okay. Why don't we move on to item number 6? Robert, would you like to?
Yeah, I think you'll recall that over the last year, the council has been having conversations on and off about the rail committee, its charge, and with all the changes that have been happening in town, ranging from the MOU with Caltrain, the closure of the Atherton station, the implementation of the Watkins Crossing improvements and the buy-in from Caltrain on the extension of the quiet zone. The die down on activity from high-speed rail in the peninsula, whether or not there's a real driver for the rail committee to be a full town committee as opposed to one that is more of a resident committee supported by the town, meaning that
Not supported by
no, you'd have access to town facilities. We can post stuff on our website if needed, help coordinate a few things, but it wouldn't be staff
We couldn't,
staff managed. It would no longer be, it could no longer be a Brown Act committee, so no
can
formal
talk- we can
minutes,
email
no
each other.
recordings, no, but it frees you up to talk more, it allows you to talk more freely about rail issues.
and we can request staff's presence if we have some updates or some
Yeah.
questions. And
And as always, I mean, I'm available as staff on a variety of issues anyway, so you all know how to get a hold of me, John particularly, and Greg. They reach out all the time.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I said, you all know how to get a hold of me if there's something that you
Right,
need to
that's
talk
right, I
about.
do. I have his number.
so I would like to hear all your feedback in terms of how we would like to proceed, or you as an individual in terms of whether you would want to move to a resident-led committee or an other alternative that I'll just leave open, whatever you guys want to do, and we can kind of decide now, and then after that, we'll kind of plan it out maybe. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, if I could say something, I started the rail committee in 2003. Came up with the idea that we should have one. And my concern at the time was, I started reading about high-speed rail coming down the pike. And I was concerned about how this might be implemented and how it would affect the town and how we could, handle grade crossings in the town and so forth. What Robert said is pretty much true. I mean, the high-speed rail is, dying of its own weight. Yeah, I don't, never say never, but I doubt if we'll ever have high-speed rail running on this corridor. I'm certainly not gonna be around to see it. I don't think anybody in this room is gonna be around to see it. We no longer have the station, so we no longer have Caltrain service. We're gonna have we have a quiet zone. We're gonna have quad gates at both crossings. I understand the sentiment and the concern and the thought that, what's there to talk about? Originally it was, we might have even had high-speed rail in the title of the committee or something originally. I just don't remember, but eventually we decided to change it to just the rail committee to discuss, Caltrain in particular, and, and how it relates to the town. So long as there's always a Caltrain or a railroad track with any kind of train on it running through town, it will still be of some concern to the town and its residents. Since, and I'm saying this just to give you some of the history, as to how it came to be and why. I'm not gonna weigh in on what you wanna do going forward, as most people know, I'm trying to move to, to move to Carmel, and will no longer be a resident here. So if plans work out within the next year or two, that will happen. So, it's not for me to say, but, those are my 2 cents.
I wanna know what, even though you're leaving, after all those years on the committee, what do you think, and I'm gonna ask you to make an opinion, what do you think should be done? I mean, you started it, you've been here for 20 years, institutional knowledge, I mean, what do you think would be a path forward?
Yeah, I started it, but
Whether you're
I'm,
not, Jim, I'm not trying to
I hear you.
put
I'm not gonna be the one carrying it forward. So, well, honestly, I'm ambivalent. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other. I think it could operate in either situation. There's, as Robert said, there is some advantage to just being, it's almost an informal committee, that, at least doesn't have to conform to the Brown Act. And I don't know what else, might not affect it, that does now, but, there could be some advantage to that.
Comment.
You guys should think about it.
Greg, go ahead.
Well, I still think that the main problem for the high-speed rail is gonna be traffic. And it always has been. And when the traffic backs up from the train station without a train stopping to El Camino and backs into El Camino and backs up into Middlefield, that you're gonna have a problem. 19 trains an hour with both the high-speed rail and the whatever you call the electric.
Caltrain.
No, well, it's Caltrain, but it's electrification of Caltrain. That it's still a number one problem for the city. And you can ignore it and say, well, we have a few delays. I drive Fair Oaks every day, both ways, at least 2 or 3 times. I know how bad the traffic is backing up to El Camino and backing up to Middlefield. And it's not going to go away, even if the train doesn't stop here. The trains keep going through, and each one of them take about a half a minute each way. And I'm just saying, if you got 19 trains, I don't know whether that's one way or both ways, the 19. But I do think that the traffic, automobile traffic on Fair Oaks is going to be the number one issue caused by high-speed rail. And I would suggest that you keep us around as a necessary nuisance to make sure that when it happens, if it happens, you got somebody that's got some experience to deal with it. Because without the experience, you might as well, forget it.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any other comments? Go
My
ahead, Jim.
concern, I'm very new to this committee, but the people here have great institutional knowledge, which I would hate to see the city of Atherton lose. With all the years of going through the stuff you guys have done, I would hate to see this thing just completely degenerate. And as Greg says, I mean, the traffic's gonna be bad. There are gonna be rail issues. I'm not like Jim, ambivalent, but if you make it a non-official committee, then you're gonna we have informal meetings down at a bar, or what is there a structure? Once again, I'm concerned about losing the knowledge of these people.
I mean, how the committee operates moving forward, if it were a less formal committee, is really going to be up to the committee. We have space at the town if you want to meet at the town. The tree committee meets in the downstairs conference room. That's available. So we can schedule regular availability of space for the committee. That's not an issue. So it's not, it's not disbanding of the committee, it is just changing its structure.
Well, we'd lose the connection with the council. I assume we would. But you would no longer attend our meetings.
On an invitation basis, as the committee needs me to provide information or wants to provide information, I can attend.
But if Diane Hawkins doesn't show up,
Well, I'm glad to talk with you guys because I am, as long as I'm right now, the representative for Atherton. So I would love the council myself. So yeah, I'd be glad to.
Because you'll still be,
what, glad to attend. the
Glad to
meeting?
attend if you needed me to attend. So yeah, and if I would be glad to share what I learned being on the
LPMG.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as I have that role, and I'll have that role the rest of this year anyway, and I'll be glad to share, like I did before, what they're saying in the other cities. So I'm part of the local policymaker representing the city. So I'm glad to come and share that with you guys. Absolutely, either through email or coming in person.
Do you understand my point on the traffic?
I do, and you're absolutely right. And that's why the whole next big move is going to be how the cities are going to deal with going up or down, or how they're going to manage going forward. And there's issues because at the meetings, and I know you guys know way more about this, but they were talking about now that it's electrified, it's made it even more complicated. And they had a whole presentation on the different types of crossings that are possible, ones that are elevated and down under, and the various structures within that. And I'm glad to share all those notes with people because I assume that's what the goal of that is. But yeah, going forward, this will be an issue our city will have to address. Like I said, Redwood City hired a consulting firm already, and there's a big lobbying effort to try to get us to have federal funding so we address it as a whole, corridor as opposed to each city. But you're right, they're saying there's going to be more and more downtime, so. And there's also sound issues. They're saying that at-grade crossings are louder than the ones that go under or over. And then there's the whole analysis of, based on the acoustics of the area. So there's a lot of science involved that the cities are trying to share. And there's lobbying, quite frankly, there's lobbying efforts of citizens. So at these meetings, there are residents that attend the meetings from Palo Alto who are very engaged. And I'm glad to share that information too, if you guys want to come and show up and lobby, or at least listen to what they say.
Well, I just feel that the situation of the traffic is significant enough that you should probably maintain the committee just so you have people in place. But Jim is planning an exodus, and I'm very close to planning an exodus myself, but I've been saying that for 10 years. But one of these days I may wake up with a for sale sign and be gone before you know it.
Yeah, I've only been saying it for 3 years, son.
All
I've only been saying it for 3 years, so
right.
don't put too much credence in my schedule.
I just don't understand why the committee, the council is so concerned about it. It's a committee that functions once a quarter for 1 hour and lose all the expertise and experience that they have. But that's their decision to make. I wish them luck if they decide to.
I have a question. Is the tree committee sort of the kind of committee that this would be if it changed nature?
Similar. I'm not going to say again how the committee operates. The committee members will have an opportunity to discuss how that is, and that includes tonight. You can talk about what that would look like.
Are there other so-called residence committees?
We used to have some, but they've kind of fallen away. I think we used to have an arts committee and that kind of thing, but right now the only resident-led committee is, I think, the tree committee.
The which? The tree?
How are they, so something like ADAPT, or I guess Friends of the Atherton Library, their affiliation with the city is more at arm's length then? Because I guess, what's the difference? Is it because they don't use any city property or any city?
No, I
resources?
think that the Friends of the Library's charter and purpose is to help guide the library.
Yeah.
And so it's
It's less
It's at,
policy.
it's
Maybe
at,
less
it's at
policy.
arm's length because you're dealing with the library, library finances, library programs.
Yeah.
And not town stuff.
Yeah.
And
Something
so.
like ADAPT, which is more involved with the city. I guess they also fire district too and. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger thing. It's more,
I guess maybe it's more policy oriented, so that's why the resident, because the tree committee would be policy oriented
Yeah.
toward.
and activity oriented. So they help, I think they help out a little bit with Arbor Day, and they worked on the tree brochure for Holbrook Palmer Park. And so they develop some stuff, they work on different things. They are involved in the discussions of tree related issues in town. And I think they reviewed the tree protection guidelines and provided a little bit of feedback on that at the time.
Okay.
So I think as far as like what Greg said, or if there's other issues that affect the town with regards to rail, there is a good benefit, there is a need for and a benefit of having residents staying on the forefront of those things and bringing things that are of concern to town staff for feedback, or you know, if there's issues that we need to be aware of, we may already be involved in it, we can provide some of that information. But it's always good to hear from residents about concerns and issues that are happening. And having a group of folks that talk about issues like rail that affect the whole town, it's beneficial.
John?
This may be a contrary view, but I personally see no basis for urging the council to keep it as a full-fledged committee as opposed to a, what do you call it, a town committee. I mean, I don't have the long association with this committee directly, but my late wife was, if not a charter member, a very early member. And she did, I think she was involved in a lot more things than I think we have. In the
She's probably
meetings
turning
that I've,
over the
well, she
grave,
was
John.
more in the meetings that I've attended recently, the information flow has been almost entirely from the town to us and very little from us to the town. The last real contribution I personally can remember making was helping review the business plans and the environmental plans. And I would be willing to continue to do that. But I think, I mean, if we really want to get together and continue to think about these issues, maybe we could assign ourselves things to think about. But if we existed as a town committee, and if Robert or Diana or anybody on the council wanted something specific from us, like assistance with the review of a business plan, if there's going to be another business plan, or I mean, you know, Greg's right, there's terrible traffic on Marsh Road, but I don't know what the hell we're going to do about it. So I guess my feeling is,
Well, you're not going to ignore it.
To go a year ago when he first proposed this, that he was thinking of doing it one morning when he and I were having coffee together. And I said, "Oh no, we can't do that. We want to retain our influence." And I guess he sort of backed off at this point, and then a year later he came back. And this point, I think he's right.
Okay. So
I will miss it.
Yeah.
I have certain sentimental feelings about it's going away. I don't
you want to
strong basis for standing up and saying you shouldn't do this.
you want to convert it to a resident-led committee, or not even have a committee? Is
So I think a resident-led
Okay.
committee, and we'll see. I mean, what we've heard is there have been some and they dwindled away, and I think that's a real risk in a resident-led committee.
Wasn't my
But
concern.
if we feel serious about it, we can agree in advance. We're going to have regularly scheduled meetings. I would say we can use this room or some other room someplace, and if we continue to do it, fine. If we don't,
Well, one of the things that you may want to think about is, you know, the town goes through efforts of recruiting. We haven't been very successful in recruiting members. to keep it going over time, finding a way to bring people in is going to be important. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge with the committee members, being able to share it and extend that knowledge so that it stays is important. And you will have flexibility on number of members, who they are, et cetera. They don't have to be appointed by council. You can say, we don't have a limit on members and whoever wants to join can join. Or however it is that you want to structure that is really going to be up to the committee if it is a resident-led committee.
Jack, did you want to say anything?
Jack, do you have any comments about whether we should continue or not?
Well, my major comment is I shouldn't make any comments because I barely heard what was said.
Well, I think
All
the
right.
question is, do you think we should continue the committee as it's stated today?
Say again.
Whether we should continue the committee. The council wants to shut us down.
Probably more accurate to say, turn us into a resident-led committee.
But we just meet on our own volition.
Well, it sounds as though we're a committee with very little purpose.
Well, that's the question. Do you agree that we should shut it down?
Well, there's also the alternative of becoming a resident-led committee, not just shutting it down.
But there is a resident committee where you can meet and discuss issues related to rail, but you have no power. And it being a professional politician for over 30 years, once you lose your power, you're dead. But that's my opinion, no one else's. And Mr. Trump will figure that out in very shortly.
Or not.
Do you have an opinion, Jack, or?
Do you have an opinion? Do you want to express an opinion, or do you want to remain silent? If we don't have anything to do, shut it down.
You can plead the fifth. It's okay, if you want. Or the fourth, I forget.
Now you're gonna have an opinion from everybody?
Yeah, we've had it,
You've had it?
Except me, but.
except for the chair.
Yeah.
I think what is the consensus of the people that have spoken? That we probably favor the residential committee?
Yeah, the resident-led committee, I think that's kind of the on balance.
I'm the only one that thinks that once you lose your stature with the council, that you lose all your power. And power in politics is the only game. Because I've lost it enough to know.
Well, that's not to say that a residents committee couldn't at some point in the future decide they want to be more official.
But it would be dependent on one person, whoever the chair of that committee is. And if he doesn't do his job, it's gone. You want to be the chair?
No, I've expressed my reasons for that already.
Well, you haven't
But-
left yet
but-
till you put the for sale sign up. It's all talk.
To me, at your house.
I play hardball.
So I guess, the chair can provide an opinion. Well, I'll provide an opinion, then open up for public comment if there's any. I'm fine with moving it to a resident level committee. I think there has been a decreased amount of interaction from the committee members and different, doing research on policy and things like that. So maybe we want to do things more, meet more together. And this will give us an opportunity to, meet together as a majority if we want to discuss various things without having to wait once every 3 months. And we could talk over email or have calls and things like
Would
that.
you continue to be the chair?
Well, you've made a very strong case for yourself to be the chair. Greg.
Oh,
Because we
I may
need-
have my for sale sign up before you know it, so you can't count
Well,
on me.
Greg, we need a very strong political leader, and I'm not sure I can provide that for us. I'll,
Based on my rate of success in politics, I'm not sure I'm that person. Alex is a better choice for Diane.
well, we haven't asked Diane.
Yeah, we need to ask her.
So that's my opinion. I'm fine with moving to a resident led committee. I'll leave it up to Diane if she wants to express an opinion. She's kind of our liaison, so she doesn't necessarily need to provide an opinion, but it's up to her if she wants to.
Well, what I will offer is that as long as I'm on the policy, representing the policy group, the Cal Policy Group, I write a report on that they meet, I think it's monthly. I write a report, I give it to George. I'll ask George if it's okay if I could share it with your group. So then you would be up to date with what's happening on the inside of all the policymakers. So I'm glad to share that with you. I have to ask George first because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't know what I can and can't share. But I write that summary, and that summary would be really interesting thing to feedback to you guys. And then you guys can go discuss it. And in my opinion, I think it would be very useful to have this organization exist, because I agree with you, these issues are going to come before us. They're not going to come before us in the next short month or two, but they are going to come. And it would be great to have a group of people who actually care and who are invested, who we can call upon. So I would like to see it continue as a thing, as a private community-led group myself.
As a residential group?
Yes, as a resident-led group.
Scott, do you have an opinion?
Yeah,
One question I had is, I know that some of our local communities have, they structure their rail as a subcommittee. And I don't know too much more than that. Like, I think at one point Menlo Park had a subcommittee. and
Yeah,
I was
it's
wondering,
because it consists of council members.
oh, okay, but is that structure something that's even potentially viable? Like, could this particular organization be absorbed into the Atherton Transportation Committee? Assuming that's. still
If a number of us ran for council and won, then we could form our own subcommittee then, but
Oh.
it would
okay.
be up to the council right now if they want to form their own subcommittee, but I think the consensus is that we're moving to a resident level committee because there's less focus, there's less policy issues in Atherton.
Okay, okay. It just, it seems like I agree with your point earlier that the flow of information was more bi-directional, like 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
But the issues with rail can be sporadic, but when they're important, they're very important.
Yeah.
So
And
it makes sense to have at least some representation.
yeah, those subcommittees also are, they have staff. So the staff, well, I'm sure the council members also do a lot of their own research, but the staff will also help them out with finding out different information so they can make some policy recommendations. And then they take their policy recommendations to the full council to see if the body wants what they want to do. Yeah.
Scott, do you live in Atherton? I missed that at the beginning.
Yeah, I live about home.
All right.
Would you like to join the committee? I won't put you on the spot. Okay.
Maybe you form one down there.
Is it in moving condition? Is it in moving condition?
Yes.
Wait.
Maybe we should talk.
Perhaps Atherton should purchase some property in Carmel and build some housing there.
There's no railroad there.
So I think we have a consensus for a resident level committee. Do we need,
Do we have it on the agenda so we can vote on it?
yeah, do we need a vote or is that enough?
You don't need a vote, but there is an opportunity if you wanted to designate somebody to speak at the council meeting, to express the opinion. Otherwise, I'll be providing this feedback to George and it'll end up in the staff report for
Don't
the
you
item
wanna
when it
vote?
comes up for consideration.
Don't you want to vote? We got 5-1.
If someone calls for a vote and it's a seconded, we can have a vote.
Well, I'll call for it.
Does anyone want, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we need to do a
Greg.
roll call vote for this, Robert?
Okay, so this is a vote.
Oh, what is the
confirm-
motion? I have
The
to ask
motion
that.
is whether we should give up our committee status and become a residential, what do you call it?
Resident-led committee,
Resident what?
led committee, resident-led. committee.
Resident-led committee, probably by Scott, because he seems like the only one that's really interested, because he's not on the committee and he's here.
Well, Scott and I ran into each other because our kids both go to the same school, and I just let him know that this would probably be the last meeting, so. Or last city,
Violate the Brown Act if you talk.
oh, Scott is not on the committee. So, and we won't be violating the Brown Act after this
Well,
meeting.
I recommend, I
Okay.
moved. Did you get the move?
And then you second the motion?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a vote in favor of the transition.
To a
correct?
resident-led committee.
Resident-led committee, okay.
The rail committee.
Yes, a rail committee that's led by residents,
Right.
yes.
Okay. I think, I mean, I can either go roll call or I can just ask for,
Well, I think we're gonna have a split vote, so I probably
Roll
should do
call?
roll call, yes.
okay. In that case, let's start with with member Conlon.
Nay.
Member Ingham,
Jack, do you want to vote on this? Do you want to change it into a residential area or a committee?
What's the committee?
Like it is now.
I'd vote no.
Okay, 2 votes no.
2 votes.
okay. All right, member Massey,
Yes.
member Jans,
Aye. Yes.
Vice Chair Mobeck,
Yes.
and Chair K.
Aye.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
So 4-2.
so it's 4-2,
Motion passes.
okay,
Okay. I have one last comment. I
Sure.
think it is appropriate that somebody from this committee attend the council meeting and speak to the fact that it's been, say whatever you want to say, but I think it's appropriate to have somebody there at the meeting in which is committee that's been around for 20 years is dissolved.
Well, the chair should be there.
Sure, what would you, well, why don't I summarize what you guys would like to express?
Well, you could discuss the issues both ways and say we voted 4-2 to dissolve it,
Become a resident-led. Yeah,
whatever way you want to say it.
okay. Besides that, is there anything of note that the
Well, I
history,
think
the
Robert
knowledge?
sort of expressed the reasons pretty well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reasons
And
for-
add in the flow of information seems to have changed and.
And my only concern is the lack of potential loss of institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, and
Well-
loss of political power.
Right.
Which we have.
I think you should stress that.
Yeah.
That the 2 votes were mainly
You-
concerned
you
about
guys-
loss of political.
You guys are
power.
asking me to make a kind of a very difficult statement if we're gonna tell that to the council.
I think all you have to say is, as a committee, we're proud of the accomplishments we've had over 20 years. We feel we've made a significant a contribution to the welfare of Atherton and its interactions with the rail. But we understand that with changing conditions, our input is less relevant and important. We do represent institutional knowledge. We'll make that available. We'll have a town-led resident committee, which the town can call on at any time. And if in the view of that committee, we think there's an issue that should be brought to the attention of the council, we will.
Okay, that's good.
Particularly if we
I-
can get those reports, George, would approve you passing
Yeah.
that, I think on the.
yeah, we'll check on that.
That would be key, actually.
Mhm.
I think.
Now, is there anybody on the policy committee that's not an elected official?
They're all,
No, but
No.
there are residents that do attend.
But they don't
That-
vote.
They don't vote no.
No,
There's
that-
no
it's
other
a, it's a
committees.
public
I've been
meeting.
voting I've only been involved this year, so I don't know what it's been in the past, but it's been mostly presentations. And they had one interactive workshop where they had the big long train and they were talking about how they were going to address the closing up and down of the different corridors. So it's been more informational than anything else. We've not been called to vote on anything, but there are residents there and there was a resident group that participated in the workshop. So they went around and they put the cities together by areas. So I was with the other people that are, Redwood City and Menlo Park. And then there was a resident one. So I'd be glad to share when that's going to happen with this group if they wanted to go and alert you if there's anything you want that's coming up. So we get, like any committee, we get what they're going to talk about.
Well, do
So-
we all want to volunteer to be on the residential committee?
Yeah, we can. I mean, you mean this?
This
Yeah,
group.
yeah. I mean, we can form the committee some after this meeting. Well, are we still subject to the Brown Act till we get formally disbanded?
Yes, and so what I would suggest is this, is that the membership currently should stay what it is. You can decide to change that after your first meeting or with your first meeting. After the council acts, you're actually able to email each other, which you're not allowed to do currently. I'm happy to work with you on scheduling, how often you want that, what you want, if you want to change something on the town's website with regards to either membership, meeting location, dates, times, that kind of thing. Happy to work with you to update that information once that's figured out.
You want to
Okay.
continue as president or as chair?
Sure.
All right, good.
I'll at least continue on to the first
And
meeting.
Jim, you want to be vice chair?
No. But I'll continue to be on the committee.
Say again?
I'll be happy to continue on the committee.
Committee. All right. Thanks a lot for coming, Scott.
We'll be emailing you about the resident-led committee.
Yes.
Would you guys like me to write to the committee or you want me to actually speak to the committee? I can do either.
Council?
To the, sorry, to the
I'd
council,
rather
yeah.
hear you speak.
Sure,
I think
okay,
you should go there.
Show the flag of the.
okay,
Sign of respect.
sure. And then I will work through Robert to get all your help in terms of the accomplishments of this committee, because,
Well, when do you suggest we meet again?
no, we're not meeting. We have to communicate through Robert. Unless I call a special meeting, which I don't know if we want to call a special meeting just to prepare for,
For the residential group.
would that be appropriate? I don't think to have a special meeting to prepare for, we could wait.
No,
until the
I think
formal
what,
disbanding.
if I'm hearing correctly, I think member Conlon is asking, when do you want to meet for the first time as
A residential.
I'm gonna say this, is that if the committee function stature doesn't change, the next regular meeting would be December 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, if things change, you have a choice of keeping that date and time, or you can pick another date and time.
But we meet as a residential committee.
Again, the council hasn't acted yet,
Oh, okay.
okay?
They'll
And
act tomorrow
so
night?
they're gonna likely consider it at their regular meeting on September 20th. Okay, so that would be when they would likely talk about it and maybe make a decision. Right now, as a regular town committee, your regular date for meeting is December 5. Okay, so you can choose to keep that date for now as your next meeting, regardless of stature. And if the stature changes, you can talk about changing the date if you like.
And our new chair can tell us.
Sounds like your new chair is your existing chair.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll be the chair. Well, actually, I
date open.
actually haven't been voted in the new term because
Just wait until after the council meeting in which the thing holds, then we can get together
Yeah.
and talk about what we want to do.
sure, we can do
Yeah.
that.
But we're
No
not
later
supposed to
than
get
December 5th, John?
Till after we're dissolved, so that's.
So In terms of accomplishments, Alex, I'm happy to chat with you about a few items to include.
Sure, yes.
I think the committee, as Member Jansen said and Vice Chair Malbeck said, has done a lot over the years. Ranging from the simple things of reviewing business plans and environmental documents, which aren't that simple because they're large, complicated documents, to working towards getting the quad gates installed at walk-ins, doing a lot of work with regards to the quiet zones, providing a lot of feedback with regards to levels of service, dealing with a variety of issues, both related to Caltrain and high-speed rail. So I don't want to minimize anything that the committee has done and hopefully will continue to do. Rail is still going to be here. It's still going to have an impact on the town. And so having people with the knowledge base and the interest is important, regardless of how that committee is.
Yeah, I won't be able to make the September meeting, but October might be, I'll be on a business trip.
Okay, if you're not going to be available in September, Vice Chair, would you be able to speak?
I'm willing to.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
I'm
I mean,
actually-
otherwise you do it remotely. I mean, that's also an
I'll-
option, but I think in person is always
it'll
better.
be a business conference. It'll
Okay.
be, I don't know when I'm gonna be,
Okay,
busy.
so if,
unless it can wait till October. I'm actually addressing the council then on the park and rec stuff, but I can wait. I don't know if George, I think George probably.
I don't know.
Okay.
What I would say is this, is that if it is September, perhaps Vice Chair Malbeck, and then if it's October, then you'll be able to speak to it.
I'll
Okay.
attend the meeting and if
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
take action and it's
Well-
appropriate to speak, I'll speak.
I'll try to prepare something, maybe some talking points and such, work with Robert on that.
If you want to do a small subcommittee
Yeah, we
between
can.
you and.
Yeah, amongst us two and
yeah.
maybe include Robert, we can put something
Okay.
together. Okay,
What do you want?
sounds good. Future agenda topics. Well, that was it. Next meeting date confirmation. If
If, yes.
if for some reason nothing happens between now and then, it's December 5th. And then if our status changes, I'll send an email out. Robert will give me all your emails. I'll send an email out to figure out when we'll next meet. December 5th can be a good default date, but maybe we'll meet sooner than that. Anything else?
I just want to say I'm going to be gone through the middle of September. So I won't be around for the 20th. I'm going to miss all the centennial celebration for the town because I'm here on the 12th, actually. But no, the party's not on the 12th.
Well, there is a
Is it?
special meeting on the 12th.
There's cake.
Not the big thing, not the big celebration, but I think there's a toast
Yeah.
and
They're gonna show the history video on the 12th. So on the 12th, they'll show the history video, the history of the town video. And during the bigger thing, it's gonna be huge and we'll have the train specific stuff in here. So we'll have the train video, we'll have a train display, we'll have the announcement of the future train mini museum and a call for volunteers. That's gonna be in here. And then the history
Sorry,
of the
that's
train will
the
be
big
over here.
meeting?
I'm
that's
the
the
big
20,
party?
that's on the
That's the
24th.
24th.
But on the 12th, there is a special
Where's that?
here.
Right here.
Yes,
Okay.
cake, champagne and a
What
video.
time?
6
6.
o'clock, there's a sign outside.
When is that?
Good.
On the 12th?
The 12th.
The 12th, it's 6 o'clock.
Great.
Champagne and cake and a toast.
Okay,
Sounds good.
do I have a motion?
I'll move a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for all your.
I want to
gifts.
give, can
Thank
you
you.
shut off the speakers?
Stop the recording.
Can I give you the telephone number now?
Yes, please.
Oh.
And the